Hey guys, I was gonna do a short little video review of Alone Season 7, Episode 2. I actually tried to do one on Episode 1, but I went through the whole thing and messed up when I hit record, so we'll just start with Episode 2. That said, Episode 2 starts with Roland, who we got introduced to in Episode 1. So, seen a lot of him off to the bat, and he's a pretty funny guy. Definitely confident, which is pretty hilarious. It's all about putting the pressure on yourself by guaranteeing that you're gonna win. So that's pretty funny. But he saw Wolverine last episode and was eating some ants, and now he's building his shelter and collecting berries. And that's definitely a good thing to do. I love in the fall up north, there's just so many berries. During my season, I actually was on a area that had a forest fire, so my berries were somewhat limited. But on my island, I had, that said, quite a few, and I collected most of them. I had a big bag full of them, and Roland's filling up a big log full of them, so that's pretty cool. It's nice to have something to fill your gut, even if it's not super calorie dense. You don't suffer the same hunger pangs. And it shows him doing that and starting to build a stone house, at least like a basement to a shelter, which is great. Like if you have the rock in the area and you don't have to haul it a long ways, you can stack it into a little shelter. Then it's great because it holds a lot of heat, so if you can build a hot fire inside of it without the fire risk and store the heat. That said, it's a somewhat time consuming and definitely a bit of a calorie risk. Like everything out there, it's kind of a balance of risk versus reward. It's definitely nice to sleep in a nice shelter in the cold winters, though I've also had plenty of experience sleeping in teepees, and I know that's manageable also. For me, it again comes down to calories, so I didn't want to waste a lot of calories on a shelter. I wanted to spend all my spare time hunting, because no matter how warm my shelter was, if I didn't have calories to keep my body warm, I knew that wasn't going to be sustainable. So that said, it's definitely not a bad idea to build such a nice shelter, get it warm, as long as you can still have the caloric and time leverage to get something big or manage fishing. But he is funny because he clips back to him. He's basically, I think I got 100% chance of winning, which is funny. Of course, you never know when you're out there, but it's like when I play board games and I tell people I'm definitely gonna win. It's like, you don't know, but it makes it more fun to act like you do. Anyway, he's definitely got the skills. I like him as a contestant because he has the guiding and hunting and knowledge, which is key out there. He's obviously lived off the land, and so I think as a contestant he was well selected and should be well suited for the challenge. And so I'm actually excited to see how he plays out. Plus he's kind of in contrast to the usual type that they cast, that he's, you hear him talking about, I'm no hippie, all that. That's kind of funny. Anyway, it's fun. It'll be interesting to see his shelter come together. He's definitely going all out and burning the calories to build it, but again, you're just balancing risk and reward, and it can be a big reward if he can put the other piece of the puzzle together and also collect calories. Then we see Mark, is a Marine sniper and all that, and definitely got a tough guy, and it's right off, he's got a good mindset, and right off the bat, he's just hammering at the fishing. Like Mark says himself, like, who would have thought that setting a little 12-foot by 4-foot fishing net out in those lakes and you'd be catching that many fish. That place is teeming with fish, and he got a particularly good spot for a gill net, it seems, and he's just raking them in. So that's awesome. Good for him. I've actually been really curious to see someone try to sustain themselves solely on fish, because I mean, of course, from experience, I know you can do it on game. That's what everybody does. But I also know people do it on fish. You know. But I'm interested to see that exclusively happen, because I haven't lived with a exclusively fishing culture. So seeing how he can maintain weight and all that on fish alone will be interesting. Although later in the episode you see he's also got bear in his territory. So as far as things go, Mark kind of has the setup that I imagined for my plan A when I went out there, which was to catch a bunch of fish, or at least some fish, and try to bait in a bear, get a shot at a bear. He's now got all the pieces of the puzzle, and it'll be interesting to see if he can put those together, or if he tries to. Like, I wonder if he'll try to bait the bear in. It looks like he's got the right attitude. He's like, you know, he was going for the bear as soon as he saw it. So I think that's be interesting to see if that pans out, or if he gets an opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing Mark all around. He's got a good shelter going. It's big, but it's, you know, well built, and he's got lots of fish and a bear. So that's kind of all you need to make it happen, if you can just put those pieces together. And we'll see how that goes. Then we also get Callie next, and Callie's got a super positive attitude, and that's as big of a deal as anything. It's kind of fun watching her have fun out there, chase the wolves, and just run around. It's interesting that she has such a tricky spot to find a good spot for a shelter, because you wouldn't really expect to have that problem out there from where I was, because, you know, there's plenty of flat ground. But when they pan out from Callie's spot, you know, she's definitely in a cliffy little area. We're gonna have a train coming by, so that'll be exciting about Callie, because we're seeing Callie trying to find a place to put her shelter, and that's kind of rough. She initially put it in a pretty windy spot, which, man, no matter how good you are at chinking your shelter, it's gonna cut through there. So it's nice to see eventually she finds what looks to be another spot. It's kind of a bummer for her, and that it's a lot of time and energy kind of wasted, but not really, because in all her hiking around she found a porcupine. So that's awesome. Shot a porcupine. They're tough little animals. Me and Kai, who's on episode 1, was introduced up in Ontario, got a porcupine last year, filled it, had like 5 arrows sticking out of it, and it crawled through a rock hole and snapped all those wooden arrows off. It was pretty impressive. He was tough little animals. But anyway, what an encouragement for Callie to get, after kind of struggling to find a nice spot, it seems. She's found a spot, and now she's got meat. So that's right at the start. It's such a confidence booster just to get some meat, just so you're not starving every night right off the bat. You can kind of take the edge off and you have a little something to work with. Anyway, she's super good attitude, and that'll take her a long ways. So be interesting to see what she puts together, how she figures out her land, and how to make the best out of it. I think, and then we got, Corey is next, who they introduced. Corey's someone I was really excited to watch on the show, because he is an awesome archer. He's on Instagram, I know his tag is Organic Archer, but he is always making bows and shooting bows, and you can see he's just a sniper with them. So I was pretty excited to see him out there and watch him, take shots, snipe some animals or whatever. Off the bat, he's making a nice little shelter. Unfortunately, doesn't look to have a spot teeming with small game and stuff. He's probably got, big game sign around and stuff, but unfortunately, he tweaks his knee while he's building his shelter, which is something I understand completely. I've had a couple knee surgeries, and man, he tries to tough it out like you'd imagine you would, and it just seems to be getting worse and worse and not healing. And that early in the game, day 12, it's a bummer because, yeah, you kind of feel like, well, might as well not kill myself out here when you're that disadvantaged right off the bat. So I totally understand him tapping and agree that he should. It's not worth risking long-term damage. That said, I was bummed because I was really looking forward to seeing him out there. He's a real cool guy. Seems like he's got a really good attitude, and it's cool to see someone who's a master of their art, and he's definitely a master of archery, so it would have been fun to see him apply that out there. Had he gotten a chance at some big game, he at least caught a fish. He might have caught more. They don't necessarily show them all, but he was maybe gonna start getting in a groove, but you blow out your knee and you're in trouble. So I understand. Good job. It was cool watching him while we got the chance. He wasn't out there enough time for him to really figure out his land and see what opportunities were available. And if he had started staking something out, we didn't get a chance to see that. But anyway, good job, man. And you should follow him on Instagram. He's definitely, like I say, a master of what he does. Amos is next. He's got an interesting backstory from El Salvador and living in the jungle and all that. He seems like a really nice, cool guy and skilled, and it'll be interesting to see him out there. He's definitely in a different climate and environment, so we'll see how much of his skill set translates up north. But right off the bat, he's catching fish, and he sees a wolverine too, which is crazy. And then this season, the wolverines are, last season people saw tracks, but we didn't get any other footage of a wolverine other than the one that was running around my place, or the two, or however many. I think it was two. Anyway, here we've already seen two in the first week or so out here, so that's kind of fun. And Mark had tracks on his land too. They're out there, such cool little animals. But yeah, anyway, Amos seems like a really cool guy. You don't see a lot of him in the first episode, but you get introduced to him, and he's catching fish. Nice pike with the eggs in it. The pike I caught on the last day of my last season, 20 plus pounds, over 20 pounds, and just full of eggs. But the eggs, when I boiled them lightly, and they tasted, oddly enough, just like cream of wheat. I don't know. Anyway, try it out sometime. The other nice thing about the pike, as opposed to all the lake trout I was catching, like on the lake trout, the fat's pretty hard to separate from the guts and stuff, whereas on a pike, the fat just pulls out, so you just get this big cup of nothing but fat, which is kind of nice. So yeah, that's good for Amos. Good food right off the bat. Everybody's out there going for it, so people are kind of going big or going home this season, which is what I was hoping to see. People are out there being active. That's what you need to do. You need to provide calories. You don't want to play the starving game. It looks like people are doing that, and there's only so much control you have over that, but they're out there trying to provide the opportunities, increasing the odds that they have run-ins and get the intel on their territory that they need, and it looks like everybody's doing that, and so far so good. Shelters are going well. Let me think. Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see